1960 in Somaliland.
جزيدة سبان أخلن كانوا سبيني إنسان جزاهينو زرم ويلو هلا غلايو زغل من تدروريو زيغدين غاميريو سقنا خانو هيني كيزو زارا يغلويدو زمالك وكايا حديقا ملزيو زاحر كي جلبوري زرع يوم نصغامو أنسيدو يهي إيغو كان زيب كالنزار.
The two colonies became independent and on the 1st of July that year united to become the Republic of Somalia. At last there was a prospect of a united, prosperous country run by the Somalis themselves. But many Somalis had divided loyalties between clans, generations and colonial influences. The armies marched differently. The legal and commercial procedures differed. In 1969, President Sharmaka went on a mercy mission to the northeast. He never returned. A few days later, on the 21st of October 1969, Radio Mogadishu announced that Major General Siad Barre had staged an allegedly bloodless coup. Relentlessly making decisions, he quickly consolidated his position. Proclaiming himself president, he abolished the National Assembly and personally headed an appointed 25-member Supreme Revolutionary Council. Barre's other great skill involved the coexistence of Islam and Italian-inspired Roman Catholicism within a supposedly atheist Marxist-Leninist state. Now, with the country rallying behind him, Siad Barre had to look for more ambitious plans to foster his power gains and further attempt to go down in history as father of the Somali nation. One belief that would always unite the race was that ethnic Somalis in the neighbouring Ethiopia and Kenya should be reunited with Somalia. Secretly, he started training a movement, the Western Somali Liberation Front, within the disputed areas. At first, the clandestine aggression went well. Emboldened by the fact that the pro-Western Emperor Haile Selassie had been deposed, Barre launched a full-scale attack on Ethiopia in July 1977.
I personally, at the time when asked, advised the Somali government not to intervene in the Ogaden.
An embattled army and an empty treasury forced Barre to sign a peace treaty with Ethiopia in April 1988.
And now disaster, for the brutal Siad Barre soon turned the politics of divide and rule the clans into a bloodbath.
Had an extremely ruthless, cruel and ambitious dictator who, above all else, wanted to turn what was widely regarded as Africa's most homogeneous country into a nation of enemies. He wanted every region to mistrust the other, and he wanted all clans to be beholden to him.
Killing tens of thousands by massacre, torture, and firing squad. One of the leading historians of Somalia, I.M. Lewis.
He was very knowledgeable about the clan divisions, and he exploited them. He armed those groups that he thought were friendly or supportive to him, and he encouraged them to fight his opponents. So there was quite a distribution of arms among the civilian population in the, let's say, the 80s, as Siad struggled to retain power.
Barre found himself fighting his own people. Forced Barre, indiscriminate shelling terrorized the civilian population. Government forces indiscriminately mined areas where nomads congregated, particularly water wells.
With British, its main towns are Hargeisa and Beral. The two regions merged when the country won independence in 1960. The president, Siad Barre, is in all but name a dictator. He was attacked last month by Amnesty International. They described his regime as a human rights crisis.
What it documents is a pattern of torture of political opponents, massive arrests of people who merely criticize the governments or who are political opponents, unfair trials and many executions.
5 years on, these mines are still killing and maiming people, despite the efforts of international...
Over 1 million people have fled their homes in terror. Many are now in crowded refugee camps with little food or water.
waxaad aragtaa nin curyaana oo sita mashiinkii ku soconayay kaas oo uu ku soo socday ilaa magaalada Hargeysa. waxaad aragtaan dadku inuu nooc walba leeyahay mid aan laxaad lahayn mid gaboobay mid da'yar iyo nooc walba kuwaas oo ay dhibaatadooda saamaysay.
While the report was being prepared, the war in the north broke out. Amnesty International has had many eyewitness accounts.
Killings of civilians, unarmed civilians in Hargeisa, the end of May, beginning of June, and the alleged bombardment of fleeing civilians in tens of thousands. They're trying to escape from this and go across the border to Ethiopia. Now, across the border in Harshin and Hatashek refugee camps, there are over 300,000 people from north, from around Hargeisa, and there must be 1 million or more who are displaced within the country itself. 2 towns, least Hargeisa and Burao, are virtually completely destroyed.
The Somali government, through its embassy in London, denies any responsibility for mass killings. In fact, it even denies that there's been a full-scale war at all. A government representative told us that the air raids which killed relatives of Welsh Somalis simply did not happen.
It's not true that the army is carrying out repressive activities against the people. That is a lie. It's a total lie. And we can prove this to you.
I've seen film of an aeroplane dropping bombs on a city. I've seen photographs of devastated houses that could only have been caused by heavy shelling and bombing.
I think if you have seen an airplane, I do not think if you have seen an airplane dropping bombs. There has been no bombardment in the north. And I repeat, no bombardment, no bombing. There was no need.
ummadda Soomaaliya cidna kama ay qarsoona waqtigiin inuu halganka Soomaaliyeed uu muddo dheer imika u soconayay kaas oo lagu jiray nidaamka maanta ka dhisan dalka Soomaaliyeed oo muujiyay naxariis darro muujiyay qeyr mas'uulnimo muujiyay oo ku dhaqaaqay wax ka baxsan bani aadminimada ka baxsan dalkii oo dhaqaale ahaan iyo siyaasad ahaan baaba'ay ummadii xorriyadeedii siyaasadeed iyo xorriyadeedii bani aadminimo iyo tii dhaqaale iyo tii dadnimo mid walba heerka ay gaadhay laga wada dheregsan yahay halkan wuxuu dhashay inuu dadku dalka ku nool meel kasta baa joogay inuu xorriyadiisa u dagaalamo inuu xuquuqdiisa cashado inuu iimaankiisa diintiisa iyo dhaqankiisa u madax bannaanaado in nidaam dimuqraadi ah oo xor ah oo ku dhisan ikhtiyaarka dadka doorasho xalaal ah oo dadku u xukuumadda dimuqraadi xaq u dhisan in laga sameeyo ayuu halkan u bilaabmay